Okay, so we had some time for this to dry. You can see it. I love the Rust-Oleum. Did a really nice job. One coat's going to be more than enough for this. And this had a time to dry. Also, we got the chiller grill. Like I said, we might put it in and we might do another coat of the black on it later on if we need it. And the Bassard collector has some time to dry. So let's take it off of the tape. And that's looking pretty good. And that's ready to paint. Put our painting stick to the side. And I think what we're going to start with is we're going to paint the inside of the nacelle pylons. And this is going to be like a blue. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to use the tester's blue. It's not duck egg blue. There's going to be a duck egg blue that's going to go along the edge, but that's not what these vents are. These vents are a dark blue. So I'm going to use the tester's blue paint, and let's get it in. We're going to start to shake it up. While the paint is mixing, maybe I'm going to go ahead and put another coat on, just in case. While we're waiting, it give us the opportunity to put the second coat on. Yeah. What I did was I went, and if I saw any gaps or where there was violet showing, I just went over it to try to fill in all the lines. So we'll let that slide. And I think this should be pretty much ready to go. And I think what I'm going to do to get a feel is we're going to do the outer one first, or the inner one, excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cut in all the edges first. Alright, so a couple of areas that I'm going to cut up or cut in. Maybe I can get a different brush. Let's see. I'm going to use this one. Keep in mind, we're going to put the finished part is we have to put the decals with the Aztecing on. So that looks good. I think when it comes to this one, I think we're going to just go ahead and we're going to mask it. So that looks pretty good. I think it's going to be easier. I was trying to cut a corner. I tried to do it without masking it off, but in the long run, it didn't work. And it'll be better if we mask it off. Let's see, let's try this brush. Yeah. I want to make it where you can't really see the white bleeding through, because I'm only going to put one coat on. And let's do the lower section. What I'm doing is I want to make sure that there aren't thin spots of the paint where you can see the white from underneath. You can see this one is starting to dry already. It looks pretty good. Thus, I wanted to show you the different options. You can paint it without a mask, but then you have to keep cleaning the edges just to make sure it's crisp, or you can actually do it with the mask. So again, I like the paint pen because it gives you a finer detail point. And we're going to just run an outline right down. There. You can see there are a couple of areas where we're going to touch it up. There. You can see we're going to put 2 coats on here because when you put the paint on, the paint kind of tends to separate, but you got to fight the temptation to just really push the tip down and gob it everywhere, because it's better to do it this way and then just go in and touch up the areas that separate once it's dry. There. For the most part, it looks pretty good. Like I said, we'll touch it up as we need to once it's dry. Moving on, and you can see we got the outer part. We're going to start to think about putting in the outer chiller grill. I'll show you how it's going to look. So I want it flat, so why don't we go ahead and we're going to use a flat surface. Alright, so if it's going to drip, I'd rather have it drip on the inside. You can see it's going to, we'll leave that to cure. It looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more in this area. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and we're going to glue this into place. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's see where we're going to put that. If you need to put more glue later on, because this is gap filling glue, so we'll go ahead and we're going to put this here. Okay, so everything had some time to dry. You can see the nacelle pylon, the inner part, and we took the tape off on the outer part. And we're ready to move on, and I think what I'm going to do now is there are sections on the nacelles where there's like a blue outline, and that outline goes right about where the bend is. And I know it may seem like a lot, but remember, this isn't going to be lit up. On the same token, we can make sure that there's no light leak at all. And they're pretty much, you can pretty much guarantee there's going to be no light leak now. Don't worry, we're going to clean off all the putty from the inside of the panel, because that's, like I said, that's going to be the duck egg glue that I have is very old, and I had to thin it out with some thinner, and I'm probably going to have to put another coat on. It was clumpy, and I hope it comes out okay. There. And when this is dry, we'll do the same thing. We'll touch up the edges. think that's going to look a lot better. Yeah, that's going to look a little better. And then we'll clean up the edges. Okay, so these pieces have had some time to dry. And we clean up the lines a bit on them. I think what I want to do is I want to do the coils on the sides just behind the Bussard collectors. We'll get those done and then we can think about it. I want to use the testers, and this is the copper. And I had used this on a deflector dish, the NCC-1701. But I want to do it where the black is still going to come through. So I want to do it where we're going to be able to see that it is copper, but there is some of the black that's coming through from the bottom. There. Again, I want to keep it where we can see the black underneath. And I apologize, my painting skills are far cry from some of you guys out there on YouTube. Ideally, I could get a smaller size, but this is what I have available to me. This might do the trick, because my thought was to put this and run this along the bottom, along the inside, just like that. And that just might fit. So we'll do from this pin, and we'll go all the way to the back. So we're going to right about there. And it shows you where to cut, so it's pretty close to where we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to. So what I'm going to do is we're going to hot glue the lighting strip in place, just like this. That way there, it's going to illuminate the top where the Bussard collector is, and possibly for this part. And I'm thinking we can either, you might make it, we could put a piece of filament for the fiber optic, but we'll see. But this should make it really bright on the inside. And if we angle it slightly towards the inner part, we won't have any hot spots on this section. So that's what I think we're going to do. And when it comes to the lights, we're going to be running a light that's going to be strobe that's at the end of the Bussard collector. And the way I have it figured out is we're going to color code just so we don't get any mistakes. So the wire I'm going to be using is, we're going to be using a 30 gauge B30. This is going to be nice and thin, and we're going to be able to run through the Bussard, the nacelle pylon. Just like that. You can see how thin that is, and that's really going to help, so we can run the wires up into the nacelle. And we've got the standard red and black, and we're going to use the red and black for the basic lights, but for the special lights like the strobing, I think we're going to use, we'll do the orange and the yellow. And that of course is going to run from the strobe light in the back of the nacelle down to the circuit board. And when it comes to any other light, there is a light that's going to go through here, but this actually has a dome that you glue on. I was thinking about actually putting a blue light that came out a bit. So we would be using, let's see, think the 5mm might be a little too large. You can see the 5mm. Yeah, and that's going to be way too large. We'd have to do a lot of drilling. And let's see, I believe this would be the 2mm. Might be a little more doable. Actually, we're going to hold off on that because it does have a blue piece we can put on. It's clear blue. We'll see how that looks with the light strip off. In a chiller grill, all we got to do is just clean off the inside of the lens. Isn't that amazing? Instead of sanding it, what we can do with a damp cloth, and let's see, where's my light? Here it is. You can see the bright light, and that's going to go through. There's no light leak around the edge. This will be wide enough for wires. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to alter the nacelle pylon itself just a bit. That way there we can put a small drill and we can actually drill an opening just for the wire to pass. Yeah, see how we're able to make it a little bit larger? Yeah, that should be okay, huh? There. That should do pretty well. Okay, so when it comes to the main power supply, we're going to have the black and the let's see, we're going to make sure. So you can see the positive is going to be on the right and the negative is going to be on the left. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to put some of the flux on either one. Using the 12-volt DC. Alright, so we're going to be plugging it in. You can see we got the female, we got the male, it's going to come from the plug, and it's going to go just like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to test out the lighting strip because we've got to make sure it works. And you can see how bright that is. It's very bright. So this is probably going to be very, very good for the inside. And we're going to put it like this. And you know, I think that's going to be good enough for the top. So I'm going to unplug this because what I'm going to do now is I want to lightly sand the inside of the chiller grill just so it'll diffuse the light just a bit. See how it's getting a little bit cloudy? to do that just so that there are no hot spots. Alright, let's try that again. Let's plug in the LED strip. And that looks a little bit better. You can still see the hot spots on the camera, but it's not as bad when you're looking at it in person. So these are the registry numbers that are going to go along this part. We figure they're going to go right about here. I want to make it where we can put the light in. Eventually we're going to put it where it's going to be just like that, and it's going to be up against the bottom, and we're going to want it to be kind of aimed, so we're going to have to turn it around and get it like that, where it's going to be lighting up the side where the registry markings are. That took a little bit, but we got it in. And again, I think it's going to look really cool. Try that again. And hopefully this one works. See, this one does work. That's a good thing. Hopefully you guys can see that. That's going to look really good when that's all done. Okay, so I think I want to do now is we should think about hot gluing the lights in. Maybe we should think about wiring these together first. Let's see if that works. Alright. These wires are extremely thin, so we're going to have to be really careful. You can see, that's going to look really cool. I'm going to leave all the lights plugged in because I'm going to need to know if it stops working or not. So why don't we start with the forward light. Yeah, let me see now if we can get this one positioned. Ultimately we want it. So that's going to look good right about there. So let me kind of see if I can hold it in place. So that's pretty cool. It's looking pretty good. Alright, let's go to the aft end now. And we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to position this one so that it's down. That looks just about perfect, just like right there. So I'm going to go ahead and pretty good. So that's what we got so far. So I think what we got to do now is we're going to start to wire all the hot glue all the wires into position. Just kind of see what it's going to look like. So let's put the inner side on. You can see that's looking pretty good. And looking at the camera, it's weird because you can see hot spots on the camera, but you really can't see the hot spots that well looking at the it. All right, now I think it's time to hot glue the LED strip into place. Now I'm going to take the backing off. Not so much that we're going to be using it but rather I don't want the glue to get attached to that and not keep the strip in place. See, it just kind of peels right off like that. And now we can actually hot glue. So it's going to go just like that. So let's start down in the front. If you notice, I put some of the hot glue right onto the soldered connectors. What that's going to do is going to encase the wires, and the glue doesn't conduct, so we don't have to worry about a short, but it will protect it. It'll protect the wires from pulling out because they're so thin. We don't want nothing to happen to the wires. Let me actually show you guys. I know it's really bright, but I love the glue gun. It's going to encase everything. It's going to protect it. And once this hardens, I'm going to try to close it up. I'm not going to glue the inside piece yet or the middle. We will if we need to. Just like the resistor over here. If you don't have to mess with the wires once they're inside, you know, it's best not to. This is looking pretty good. I'll show you guys the other side now. Look at that. That's the way we want. Just like she appeared on screen, we're going to have the registry markings going over there. We've got the light that's coming out just behind the coil, behind the Bussard collector. And we've got the lights on the inside. We got the light strip. It's all getting nice and solid. So I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to see, let's fit this on and just have a peek on seeing how it's going to go together. You can see how it's going to look. And again, on the camera, it looks like I can see the hot spots, but with my eyes, I really can't see it. I think what we can go ahead now is we can go ahead and think about closing it up. And what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to drill a small hole so we can put the light through for the beacon that's going to go in the back. That should do it. Can see. Alright, that's going to fit fine. So, alright, that's all set. So now when we go ahead, we're actually going to work on the bulb for the strobe. Alright, so this is going to be the strobe that we're going to use. You can see we got the resistor on. And before we go any further, I'm going to use the, I got to make sure that we mark down so we know what's what when it comes to the wires. So that's going to be going to the circuit board. So we're going to wire, and we're going to keep track of the different colors. That way there we won't get any of the wires crossed up. So we're going to have the yellow for the positive, the orange for the negative, and that's only going to be for the strobes. So we got the positive as the yellow, and we'll do the orange for the negative. Alright, so now let's tape that. All right, so let's see if we can actually get this to work. All right, keep your eye on the light. So we got the positive is the yellow and the orange is the negative. So I'm going to make sure that this is going to work. And I'm going to make sure you guys can see it. See it? So we know that this is going to be all set for the strobe. And this is all set to go inside. And what we need to do, we got to run these wires through the same way we did for the other wires. In the meantime, I think we can glue the blue cap onto that right now. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to trim around that. See how that kind of went in? So what I want to do is I want to put a little bit of glue, just a bit of the super glue on the top, and we'll let it dry. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I think what I want to do now is I want to start to fit it together, and we're going to prepare to glue both halves together. Alright, so we have everything clamped, and I think what we need to do now is we're just going to let this dry. Okay, let me go ahead and give you guys an update on what I've been doing. So we had clamped it, and that's when I had left off. We took the clamps off, and because it's so bright on the inside, there are real lot of light leaks. So what I did was I used the perfect plastic putty, and I had to fill it all in. So let me go ahead and plug it in so I can show you guys how well the light leaks were taken care of. And on top, the LED strip is so bright. I underestimated how bright it was, and it lights the top LED really nicely. And after we had done the light leaks, I wanted to put the lights at the bottom of the Starboard collector. So what I ended up doing was I drilled 2 holes, and I used the fiber optic element. I pushed it in until it rested on the light strip, and I was able to glue it into place. And then after that, I had cut the ends. And it's looking pretty good for the lights on the bottom of the Starboard collectors. And again, we got the light on the side, we got the light that's going to illuminate the registry markings, and all the way around. And on the bottom, we had taken care of all the light leaks, because there was a lot. Also around the Starboard collector itself, the aftermarket one, there was so much light leak around the edges. I had to use the perfect putty, as well as the sides and in the front. So I had to take care of that as well. Now when it comes to the chiller grill on the inside, also I put a second and third coat of the paint for the grills, and it looks better right now, but I don't know if you can see it, because on camera all you can see is the hot spots, but with the naked eye there really aren't that many hot spots, and it looks pretty good. Then we took the nacelle pylon, we glued it together, we put the halves together, and we had to run the wires through, and we glued them together, and then we put the wires, we had to fish them up inside, and then we put the nacelle pylon on. So finally we're able, right now we're going to start doing the decals. going right about there. There. Look at that. Starting to look nice. Okay, now we can officially begin the test first. I think we're going to start with this one. And you can see where it's going to go just like that. And it's going to wrap down. Dry, we'll put some of the micro set on, and what it's going to do is it's going to shrink wrap the decals to it. Okay, so that side looks alright, hopefully you guys can see that. I know it's going to be hard to see with the way the angle is with the glare. So you can see the area around the inner chiller grill. Okay, so to give a little bit of an update, we did the decals. Hopefully you guys can see that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put on the registry markings, and then we'll be able to put on the micro saw. One thing that I think is pretty interesting, and this is pretty cool, look, they have the thrusters for the corner, because I was going to paint that on. But we'll see how the decal looks first, and of course we've got the NCC-1701 registry. So hopefully you guys can see that. That's actually, that went on really, really nice. Let's dry the extra water. Yeah, that actually went on pretty nicely. And we'll put the micro saw on it, and that should make it look really nice. Because right now it's just a bit. With the bubbles, but okay, let's put the registry marking on now, and she's really going to start to look like the Enterprise, I hope. So let's see if we're able to take this off. And I want to put it where we're going to be able to see it. And this is so razor thin that I don't really want to mess with it. So you can see that's going to go on the inside, and that's going to go on some of the micro saw line, see how it's going to set. And actually, I'll use this. This is my official micro saw brush. So let's start by doing the nacelle pylons. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now what we got to do is we gotta wait for this to dry. Okay, so it's been a little while, and it had some time for the microsol to work. And hopefully you can see the Aztec decals. And we got the registry markings. You can see the bottom, and going all the way back to the thrusters that are on the fin in the back. So why don't we go ahead and I'm gonna plug it in. And the way I'm gonna put it is we're gonna have both. I'm gonna put the strobe as well, just to show you what it's gonna be. All right. So let's take a look around. And again, keep in mind, guys, this is going to be strobing. And I only got it for illustration to show you guys that it lights up. We've got the blue LED down at the front. On the side we have the black outer chiller grill, and it's got the light. And going to the back, you can see the registry markings. It is a little bright. I don't know if I'll be able to tone it down a little bit, but it is illuminated. That's kind of like what I wanted. On camera, it looks so bright that it's washing everything out, but with the naked eye, you can see it actually looks pretty good. And of course, we have the LED, and this is really bright, but that's going to be a strobe. Looking at the inner chiller grills, you can see the grill, and again, there are hot spots, but on the with the naked eye, it looks really diffused. It really looks good, but on the camera, you can see all the hot spots. And let's see, we don't want this to touch. So I think maybe I can put another coat of the black, because there is still some sections where you can see the violet underneath, but that'll be when we do a final assembly. And looking at the front, I had wanted to put the lights in that she has in the front. There are two now. The lights that they have on the actual model, you can have one is going down and it's illuminating the primary hull, and one is coming down and it's lighting the registry numbers. With this one, it's too small for me to do that. So what I did was I drilled a hole and I ran fiber optic cable in there so that it would pick up the light coming from the LED strip, and it would light the bottom. And again, that LED strip is very bright. There is no LED on here. This is just the clear, the blue LED dome that came with this piece for the Bussard collector, and we're able to light it like that. And again, this one is this one is so bright that it's really kind of overpowering everything, but this is actually going to be a strobe. And the way I did it was, we got the strobe, taking a look at my plans, so we don't have the confusion of all the different kind of the wires. For the strobe is going to be, the positive is going to be yellow and the negative is going to be orange, and eventually we're going to wire those to the board. And when it comes to the wiring, I ended up going with the 30 gauge. Let me show you guys once again. I've got the 30 gauge. This is the PN B30. And what I like about that is it's really thin. The only bad thing is it breaks really easy just because it's so tiny. But when I put it in, I tied off both ends to keep the wires together. and then I kind of folded them into the back to keep them in place, and then I glued the halves of the nacelle pylon together. So once those were together, there was a little bit of extra wire, so I was able to tuck it into the nacelle to the opening, and then I was able to put the nacelle in itself, and I glued it that way. So then we were able to put the Aztec decals on, and unfortunately I don't know of any Aztec decals that actually do the 4 colors. I wish they did. They don't. I'm doing the painting on the Aztecing on a 1/350 scale, and I'm still working on that. That is such a work in progress. You can see the difference with the 4 colors. I absolutely love it. And I'm having a hard time with the paint masks sticking. It's a pain, but when it's done, it really makes a big difference. Actually, this would be a good time to show you the difference. So this is the 1537 Enterprise, and this is the the 1350. So it shows you how large the 1350 is. Alright, but that's another video, that's another project. When it comes to this one, again, I had wanted to do this special for my wonderful friends that supported my channel, the 3,000 subscriber. So I wanted to make it a little extra special. So this is the starboard side nacelle, and this is actually going to go into the secondary hull eventually. So this is pretty much finished. Like I said, the only thing that I want to do later on is when the final assembly is together, we're going to put the protective clear coat over the whole thing. Again, the lights, it's lit everywhere that I wanted the lights, just like in the film. And we're going to light the nacelle pylons as well, but that's going to be from the secondary hull. I'm happy with the way the lighting looks. The LED on top, that beacon, and we have the chiller grill on the inside. So this, I know it took a while. It seemed like I've been working on this forever. But there's a lot of work to go into it, just because I wanted it to be extra special for you guys. I mean, this is the 3,000 subscriber special build. So we got the pylon and the nacelle for the starboard side pretty much all set. So I think what we're going to do now is I'm debating whether we should just do the port nacelle, or I'm really tempted to go to the saucer section and start working on that, kind of break it up a little bit. But anyway, we'll see. But as for now, this was the finished nacelle. This was the starboard side, and I hope you enjoyed this part of the build, and we're going to be moving on shortly. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the kind words, and I'll talk to you soon in the next video.